from purely just bringing it closer to the mental training side of things, what I've been exploring with, it's using some syncopation or pattern rhythm basic drills as objects to allow to at least be an introduction to, let's say, the chaos and the noise, right? In terms of just purely reference to counter a little bit the reality of many of us spending longer time scrolling through a phone, right? So if we were to suggest that we want to have a baseline of the ability to just simply focus, right? The intensity of the focus, but then the length of it as well. I've found that some of the very basic rhythmic drills that you would learn in stick control are very, very useful for people, right? So in layering, for example, one fun thing that we can do, and then I can hear your thoughts on it, is you can take basic counting of 16 notes in percussion, so you're 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and that, right? And then you can subdivide it into groups of one note at a time, moving 1/16 notes every 4 counts. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, E, and then groups of 2, for instance. So you have that going, right? But then matching that physically, at first closer to the peripheries of your hands as you were doing, and then maybe through dancing, as you were saying as well, or potentially even in like some sort of cheese out type of configuration. Not necessarily, but not to call it patty cake, but something more martial. And then being able to hold those different lines. So if I'm doing my 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and with single notes, that's relatively simple. But then if we add a little bit more complexity in the pattern, so I'm doing 20 notes with my hands. So 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. And I try to over that lay my 16 notes from 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E, etc., etc., etc. I've seen the jump in progress of people doing that with very, very basic mental work, as in just observing the rising and passing of thoughts increases exponentially, right? So I'm not sure in your process is guiding people as well in the starting the practice of meditation, for instance, if you have used as well your experience, because I have no idea, by the way, that you're a drummer and teaching drums since you were 12. If you've observed any of that coming into your teaching as well.
So just to make sure I understand, you're referring to like polyrhythmic type of expressions as a means of like defabricating expectations of where things should be to help release people's mind from habits of perspective.
Correct.
Okay. That's genius. That's really smart. I don't think I've used that for meditative stuff. Usually I start people with one pointed focus.
Right.
And the reason for that is most of us can't focus on one thing for more than a few seconds. Also, for myself, I found that very quickly, within 2 weeks of doing a couple hours a day of one-pointed focus drills, excuse me, knew that one was coming. Within a couple weeks of that, my intelligence shot through the roof. My ability to perceive myself and my habits shot through the roof. My growth rate started to rapidly excel when it comes to dissolving perceptions of self. So I find that a really useful one to start with. Now, there are people that I wouldn't recommend one-pointed focus for. And people who quite traumatized, have a very traumatic history, especially to have that one point be within the body, I think can be quite damaging because you end up pouring your attention into the place where there's trauma. Or if you aren't very good at holding an object in your mind, which is just an exercise or a tool for developing the ability to touch, real stuff. If your object is in you, or if you're depressed and you're just pouring all your energy into your depression or whatever takes your mind off that object, which is going to be most stuff in the beginning, you might be doing more harm than good unless you're incredibly tenacious. So for people who have that contracted type being, ways to confuse the mind, like you're saying, to use polyrhythmic type stuff as a means of what happened to open that up, I think could be really useful. Trance-like stuff, so anything that opens stuff up. That said, I've never thought of using polyrhythmic exploration to enhance a meditative training. And I think that's really, really smart. And I'm going to have to think about that and explore that, because that's a great idea.
I hope you do. I'm very curious to see what you would do with it.